Kiki Classic Rock.
This engineer has worked alongside the Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, Public Enemy, Heavy D, Lauryn Hill, and Nancy Wilson of Heart, and for the past 8 years has been the sound engineer for our boys of Journey. He is also in the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame and is very humble about his career, I might say, but we're going to focus on him and all of the amazing pieces of history he has and continues to be a part of 40 plus years later. Now, whatever you hear today at a Journey concert, this guy right here is responsible for it. Front of house sound engineer extraordinaire who is working with one of the best-selling bands of all time, Meaux Windhorst.
Hi, Kiki. How are you?
I am good. You have had such a busy weekend/week, and you are fresh off of a plane from being with Journey, so we got a lot to talk about, but let's go ahead.
That's a lot, but man, that's quite the build-up you gave me. I don't know if I can live up to all of that.
Should I backpedal?
It's all good. You gave me a Robin Zander lead-in, and that was cool. I mean, I got to play golf with the band, and he's a buddy, so we're starting off on a high note. So
you played golf with them. I can't. What a life you have, Mo.
Hey, there's some perks to doing what I do, and that's one of them. And I take it all. I don't take any of it for granted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Mo, let's go ahead and tell everyone your story on how you got to where you are today. Now, as I recall and I read, you worked with the band Zebra. We talked about that as well. And you're credited on their album Zebra Live in 1990. Now, is that the band that you had your true beginning with?
It's kind of, just a kid growing up in Louisiana. That's where they're originally from. And, they were the one rock band locally that kind of got it started, and they really helped the local scene take off. And then, in the good old hair metal days, there was some bands around, and there was a group called Lillian Axe that was some buddies that I grew up with, and we kind of played the circuit, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, and we all kind of grew up in the industry together. They went on and got a record deal with MCA and did a bunch of records with them. And, we were just kids having fun with it. It was never designed to turn into a career for me anyway. And, lo and behold, 38 plus years now, somebody's still paying me money to turn knobs. So guess what? I'm taking it.
Oh, absolutely. Why wouldn't you? And you're obviously very good at it, or else they wouldn't hire you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I take pride in what I do, and you're a huge Journey fan, as am I, as is probably everyone listening here. Mm-hmm. And one quick story that I wanted to relate to you is, many years of doing this for many different genres of music and many different artists and stuff. And my first time at the console for a Journey show happened to be in the arena here in New Orleans, of all places, where my family was there. And, it was my first time, so all the Journey management was there. All the sound company execs were there. There was like a lot of bricks on my shoulder. Like, man, it was pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And it went really, really well. And, late in the set, Jonathan starts the piano intro to Faithfully, this iconic, massive song that we've all grown up with.
Massive. And
it was one of those moments where, your career flashes before your eyes. And I was like, oh my God, how did I go from this kid sitting in my friend's bedroom trying to figure out what this knob does to being the guy with his hands on the faders when this band is on this stage playing this song? It was a flash before your eyes moment, man. Serious.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about you were with the band Zebra, and they're considered really progressive hard rock, but you then went on to, before Journey, in your beginnings, you worked with the Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, Public Enemy, and Heavy D. So you really did kind of skirt around these different genres, but you went from hard progressive kind of like hair band type of music to kind of rap, right? I mean, how did you slide into that?
Okay, so I mean, it's early in the career, and you just try to get work, and guys are trying to get work. And Zebra, them from their New York days, and they they were really successful and pretty massive in the New York scene, the Long Island scene especially. And my connection with them gave me a connection to an audio company on Long Island. And I did some work for this audio company. And in the early days of hip-hop, rap music, I don't think that the larger sound companies were taking it serious.
Really?
So this company with the New York connection, yeah, we got these tours, and we're going into arenas and selling out arenas. And, eventually all the other production companies of the world caught on that this is a viable genre of music. But in the early days of it, we got the tours. So, you do what you can to get paid and get a gig and get a check. And I was out on some of those tours, and I always make a joke of it, but I think it's true that yo rhymes with Mo. So I was kind of easy to remember. Yo Mo, yo Mo. And
so
you go from one tour to the next and one tour to the next. And it clearly was not my favorite genre of music, wasn't my choice, but it doesn't take long to figure out where the talent is there and who the real good guys are and who the real good guys are not. And I grew an affection for a lot of it just because of being in it and seeing who knows what's going on. And it was a good thing. You do what you can to get paid, but you appreciate what you're doing as well. I mean, that goes both ways. I've done my share of country. I've done my share of R&B. I'm a rock guy at heart, Kiki. We're all rock people at heart.
I know. It's like it's such an illness, but it's a good illness to have.
It is.
Now, Heavy D, he passed away. I believe he was only 38. He was very, very young. He had a very short career. His music was great. Did you get to work with him long?
Yeah, actually, there was some tragic there. Yeah, he passed away really early, but one of the first arena tours I did with those guys, it was Heavy D and Public Enemy with co-headliners. And I don't know, it was a pretty big story. Heavy had a really good DJ, and he had two dancers on stage with him, his boys he grew up with. And I remember on that tour, one of his guys actually fell quite a good ways from the loading dock and eventually didn't make it. And that was a pretty big deal. And
wow,
he kind of went into a shell and had to back out of that tour. So it was kind of brief, our time together there. But yeah, he was great he had a thing, the overweight lover, and all the girls loved him. And man, when he got into that stuff, he was really good with it.
Yeah, loved him. Now, Lauryn Hill, moving on to another, but she's got such a different type of sound, and she really, shook it up in the 90s. And you were working with her when she released The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and that is considered to be her best album. And at the 41st Grammy Awards on February 24th of 1999, she was nominated for 10 Grammys and won 5. Now, tell us about working with Lauryn Hill at the height of her career.
Yeah, that was pretty special. Actually, if you fast forward a couple years before that, one of those tours that we were on was kind of like a festival thing, and one of the big acts was the Fugees.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, Lauryn was with the Fugees.
Yeah.
Right? And I clearly remember like certain days, going to catering to have dinner or whatever, and there's this girl sitting off to the side with an acoustic guitar, and I'm the way it plays in my head is that's Lauryn writing the songs that eventually became the songs that were on the Miseducation record.
Wow.
Yeah. And I got called in to go sub for a guy on that tour, and it turned into about 15 months of work. And yeah, you're right, she got nominated for everything. She won the Grammys, she won the Soul Train, she won the MTV Awards, she won everything. We went around the world twice, and she was great. She was amazing band, amazing songs, It's timeless music. I mean, if you go back and listen to that record today, it'll take you back to parts of your life, and you'll just fall into the jam again immediately.
Oh yeah. That had to be so cool for you, though, to experience all of that. Even though it wasn't you, it was you. So it just had to be an amazing part of your life.
It was. She took me to Japan the first time I went to Japan, and that was a kind of a culture experience. And first time I met her really face to face as a working employee in a recording studio in Japan. I'm like, okay, this might be a 2-week gig, and like I said, it turned into a 1.5 year gig. So it was cool.
Yeah. Now, Mo, you're the sound guy. You have complete control pretty much over everything that we see and hear. However, you are also hearing and seeing things behind the stage that we don't get to see. Is there anything you got to see that you can't unsee that you can share with us?
Man, that's a loaded question, man. You were trying to get me to sell out. No, I'm not going to sell it. No, the guys are great, and it's not only the Journey guys. Well, they're phenomenal, but in my years of doing this with multi-genres and multi-artists, yes, sometimes they're phenomenal, and sometimes they're not quite on their game, So that's kind of the part of the life of an audio engineer, too, is find out where your guy or your girl is that night and what you need to do to help them to make it through. And other times, just get out of the way and let the talent soar. Yeah.
So has there ever been...
I wish I could give you more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of looking for a little bit something saucier, but it's fine, It's okay. But now, do you ever get into a situation, though, Mo, when, one of your artists are saying, listen, I can't do this tonight. You gotta carry me through. How is that for you? Because I'm sure that you've been in this business so many years. Like, what do you mentally have to do to get into that headspace?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. I'm going to harken back to my 8 years with Heart. And I mean, Ann Wilson is as much of a powerhouse as any vocalist I've ever worked with over the years. And when she thinks that she doesn't have her A game, her C game is pretty freaking phenomenal too,
Yeah, it's like A++ as a C.
I know from what I hear and what I'm putting it together, what could be different from night to night, but you don't get to this level that these artists are without knowing your own instrument. I mean, her voice is her instrument. Arnell's voice is his instrument. Yeah. And when it's perfect, it's amazing. And when it's not 100% perfect, they still know how to play their instrument,
Got it. I got it. But now, have there been any artists that you've become friendly with, like really, really friendly with, and you've had to do special things behind the scenes, like to make them sound good? Because like you said, everybody has an off day. We're all human beings. I mean, has there been any of those instances? And, can you share without sharing names?
There's been 1 or 2 times, but you kind of pulling something out that it's the behind the scenes thing. The fans, they think they want to know about that, but they don't. I mean, they're people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes a person has a sore ankle or a bad wrist or whatever. You're still going to play the game. You're still going to do the thing. I know what I need to do audibly when my singer is having an off day or not quite getting to the pitch or whatever. And, today's music is all about digital electronics, which pitch correct and fix. And, we're not about that. We come from a different genre where you step up to the plate and do it. And like I say, most of the time, I can sweeten things and put them in different positions in the mix where maybe I could cover a thing or two, but they're pretty good at covering it themselves. If they know they're not going to hit the note or get to the point, they're going to rearrange their singing pattern, and Does that make sense?
And it absolutely does, because you're old school. You're totally old school. And I think that's why you've been able to succeed in this business for so long. Again, I don't really know you, but I say it all the time, going back to old school principles and ways. And what you're saying to me is that even the singers that employ you, they are all about the old school methods and the old school ways, because they want to make sure they're giving the best that they can for their fans, whether it be 100% or maybe 98%.
That's 100% right. And, everything's real. What you hearing is real. It's not, nothing is, there was one tour we did with Heart where, the bands have the big logo on the kick drum head. You see the Journey logo or the Heart logo. And one tour with Heart, it just plainly said in big, massive letters, human.
Wow. Wow.
Nothing fake, nothing contrived, just human. This is what you hear is happening and real. And, sometimes, not 100% what you want, but it's human. It's real. It's not computer driven. It's not in the can.
Yeah. Love it. I think a lot of us music fans, really hardcore fans, appreciate that. It's, because what are you thinking about all of this auto-tune talk? And you probably know who I'm talking about, but big band that's out there for the last time, for the fifth time. But, like a lot of people, rag on them for that. And for me, it's like, listen, these guys are still out there performing for all of us. It has, if they have to disguise something, who cares? They're putting on a show.
Yeah. And, auto-tune it actually is it's become something that, I don't want to rag on today's music, because then I will sound like my parents. That Elvis thing is really bad, or that Led Zeppelin, turn that down.
Imagine that.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel about today's music. It's auto-tune has become more of a flavor than just a thing to fix something. And guys making records in their kitchen on their computer, and it's so different than it was in the old days. I think a lot of that has taken the soul out of music. I haven't done a lot of studio stuff lately. I do some, things to remix, live DVDs or whatever. But in terms of recording records, but back in the old days, man, before digital and before automation and stuff, when you would say you'd be mixing a song and you'd have 10, 15 changes in the final mix, and you have 5 guys with 10 different hands on the console to do the changes, and you're going through the process of a song, and this is coming up, and you look at the guy like, you got it? Yeah, I got it. And you would make this one pass, and all 5 guys did all 20 changes right. Man, that was magic.
It's crazy.
You're not recreating that every time, and that was the soul of mixing rock in the early days, Now it's push a button on the computer, and the computer moves a fader 0.2 decibels to change it. A lot of the soul is gone from that, I think.
Yeah. And that is sad. That is sad. But it sounds like you're still in kind of, I don't want to say the reality, but it really kind of sounds that way. Like you are really as real as you're going to get.
That, and I'm going to bring you back to what I do live too. It's, like I've said this quite a few times, I'm a dinosaur living in a digital world, because I still have my old analog mentality, and I've got this big, wonderful piece of gear in front of me, which has got all the bells and whistles, but I don't use them because I want to stay in the moment, and fingers on faders and turning buttons on and off. And that's me playing the song like the guys are playing the song on the stage. I'm not a musician, but this is my instrument. And man, when it's right, it's a religious experience, and like I said, I'm as big a Journey fan as anyone. These songs are embedded in my head as they're embedded in every Journey fan's head. The bass guitar parts, the guitar solos, the vocal lines, the background parts, the little special trills, and when it's right, it's pretty special, and I get to mix the soundtrack of my life every night, and that's pretty cool.
It's crazy. Like, it's just crazy. But, before we talk about our boys, we love our boys, but you went to work for the sister goddesses, Ann and Nancy Wilson of Heart. I mean, they are true rock royalty. I mean, I got the opportunity to see them a few years ago. I had never seen them live, and I'm not kidding you. When they walked on the stage, I cried because it felt like I was just in the middle of wonderfulness, and Anne's voice, I can't. And when she sang Stairway to Heaven, I'm sorry, like I lost my mind.
8 years mixing them, and they never, ever disappointed, ever. I'll give you a quick little story. This is one of the one of the perks of being in the position that I'm in. We grew up with that. I've been hearing Magic Man and Barracuda on the radio, and these are phenomenal things, right? Well, I live in New Orleans, as you know, and the girls love my town as well, and the food and whatnot. And quite a few years back, we had a little small tour that was actually starting in Mississippi. And they have a thing about when they travel, they don't like to connect flights, right? So they always want a direct flight somewhere. So it was a perfect opportunity for them to fly into New Orleans, let me take them out to go have some great Cajun food and oysters and whatnot. And then we would get on the bus. I'd get on the bus with them, and we'd just drive over to Mississippi, and everyone else would already be in Mississippi, right? So we did that. It was a great dinner and great sit down and hang and whatnot. And through dinner, they were telling me about all the new songs that they were putting together for an upcoming record. And they were really excited about it. I'm like, yeah, I'm excited about it too, right? So we get on the bus, and it's about an hour and a half drive to where we're going to be. And it's just really Ann and Nance and myself and maybe one or two other people. And we're sitting in the bus cruising to Mississippi, and Ann's like, hey, listen to some of these songs. So she puts in a CD of kind of rough mixes of songs that are going to come out on the new record. And they don't have any vocal tracks. She's got vocals written, but she doesn't have any tracks recorded. And it was some pretty rocking stuff. And in the process of listening to it, she just kind of starts vocalizing these vocal parts. Not really singing lyrics, but just like vocalizing melody lines and stuff, And along with that, just out of the blue, Nancy starts doing harmony parts to it.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't know if they had they probably had not worked this out previously. It was just something that just happened. It was spontaneous, and I'm kind of pinching myself like, I get the privilege to see this. This probably has happened many times over the last 30 plus years, that these girls have put together these iconic records just by being sisters and feeling each other and knowing where you're going to go and how. I mean, there was no lyric song, but these parts that they were just harmonizing together, that it was one of those pinch yourself moments. The custom fan would never get to sit in on one of those moments, and I was very fortunate that I still remember that to this day.
Oh,
awesome.
What a memory that is for you. And even when you got the gig to work with Ann and Nancy, were you pinching yourself then? Please say yes.
I was, actually. That was another one of these things where the tour manager was an old buddy of mine, and we worked together before. And the engineer that they had was a very good engineer, but he was offered a pretty good gig, and they weren't planning on working that much this year, and it was a financial thing. He didn't want to leave them. They didn't want to lose him, but so I got called in to come fill in for him for a bit. And it was another one of those things. You got to go and improve yourself, And they were losing an engineer that they had a multi-year relationship with, who was very good. And I just went in with my approach, and they liked it right off the gate, and I liked it. I mean, yeah, of course I liked it. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was hard, right?
Yeah.
And, lo and behold, a couple of weeks in, I found out, the girls told me that that other gentleman kind of lost his gig with the other artist and called back sniffing up to get his job back with Hart. And they pulled me aside to let me know that they were perfectly happy with me and were going to stay with me. And that was a big confidence boost there. And it was pretty good. I remember walking, we were doing a border crossing into Canada at 4 a.m. or something like that, you know. They get you out of your bunk and everybody's mad and aggravated, and you get up, you got to go in and show your passport and all. And I walked in, and Ann and Nancy were already in it. And, you know, Nancy looks like you would assume Nancy would look like at 4 a.m. with the, you know, camouflage army jacket on, and she's probably quite a few glasses of wine in. And she said, "You know how I know it's rocking out there?" I'm like, "How's that, Nancy?" She's like, "In my whole career, I've never seen more people play air drums in my life." And that's the first time I ever heard the quote air drums.
Are you serious?
So that made me feel pretty good. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's so cool. So cool. Now, Mo, you are credited, from what I found, 4 Hart albums. One of them, Fanatic Live from Caesars Coliseum. Now, both you and Nancy are listed as mixing consultants. Now, in a situation like that, did you work directly with Nancy to get that put together, or did she do her part and then you do your part and then they mix it, and or do you guys collaborate?
Yeah, no, we went into that show pretty wild. We went into that show and recorded it. We actually had like an 8-piece Russian string section that played along that night, and it was just, you know, go in and record it and do the show, blah, blah, blah. And then it was all recorded, obviously, for mixed down later. And a couple of weeks later, we showed up at a studio in L.A. with another gentleman named Peter Barker, who was a great engineer and had done some stuff for them. And we spent about 10 days in the studio remixing it. And, yeah, it's another one of those things that I get to talk about. You know, spending 10 days in the studio with Nancy was pretty cool. Got some great photos that came out of that. And it was a great recording and great live show.
Now, were you at the Kennedy Center tribute to Led Zeppelin when they did that?
Okay, so no, I wasn't. I'll tell you a quick story about that.
Okay.
We were doing, Hart was actually doing a corporate gig in Orlando. And we were all in Orlando setting up for it the day before. And Ann and Nance flew up to D.C. and did that thing, and then flew back to Orlando to do the corporate gig. So none of us crew got to go to do that.
Wow.
And we just heard, man, it was pretty special, you know. And then obviously you've seen it and everyone's seen it before. It was such a special moment, and to get to see, you know, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, their reaction to it was pretty cool, right? So that turned into an idea of our next tour. We had Hart with Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin Experience as our support act.
Wow.
And so Jason's band was great. They did an hour plus Led Zeppelin set, and then Hart would do their set. And then the kicker was that Jason would come back and do a 5-song encore with the Hart band as the drummer. And, you know, and Nancy have done Zeppelin covers their whole career. They're big, huge Zeppelin fans. And the way it played out on that video from the Kennedy Center with the choir and all that stuff for Stairway to Heaven, it was such a great moment that we tried to reproduce that every day. Mm. So he came out for the encore, and they would do 4 or 5 Led Zeppelin songs, one being Kashmir, which was phenomenal. Mm. And then the last song of the night was Stairway to Heaven. And we did pretty good at getting a local choir in every city we went to. They would hire, there was a great old lady that Ann knew from Seattle, from one of the churches there, Miss Ruby, and she was on tour with us. And they would hire in a choir in every city we went to, and Miss Ruby would spend a couple hours in the afternoon, you know, directing the choir, getting the choir in shape to do Stairway to Heaven. And at the end of the show, the last song was Stairway to Heaven. And then, you know, after like the first verse, the choir would file on stage and they would sing it. And it was epic every night, you know, just to hear those voices with that song and singing it. It was epic, right?
And that had to be special for Jason, too.
Here's the funny kicker that no one really gets to know, though. Oh, deep into the tour, we were doing a show in Bethel Woods, which is upstate. You know where that's at. You're in upstate, right?
Yep.
So who'd have thought that you could not find a choir in upstate New York?
Right. Why? Yeah.
Okay. So it's getting closer and closer to that show, and our production has not been able to secure a choir for that night. So it's the day of the show, and we still don't have a choir. And Ann and Nance don't know about this. They didn't want to tell them about this because they didn't want to throw any pressure on them, right? So the solution was that Miss Ruby would take all essential people on the tour who were not essential to the show at that moment and turn them into a choir.
Are you kidding?
You know, say a caterer, say Hart's drummer, because Jason was playing drums, the wardrobe girl, one of the bus drivers, you know. It's crazy. They rounded up 15, 17 people on the tour who weren't specifically doing something for the show at that moment, and she turned them into a choir.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, so the girls don't know this, right? And it gets to that part of the show, and Nancy starts playing the acoustic guitar, and Ann's out on the thrust, the front of the stage that goes out into the crowd. She sings the first verse of Stairway to Heaven, and right at that time when the choir is starting to file onto the stage, they're kind of in the dark, you know. And if you remember the Kennedy Center honors, they were all in black. Mm-hmm. They had the derbies, which is the hat that John Bonham wore for Zeppelin. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it gets to the part where the choir sings their first part and the lights come up on them, and Ann's looking at the choir and she sees the tour manager. She sees everyone in the choir who is not a choir, right? And the look on her face is amazing. But they did a fantastic job. So she's looking like, oh my God, what is this about, you know? And then lo and behold, sure enough, when Nancy kind of figures out and turns around and looks at the choir and sees that it's all of her staff is the choir of the show, she literally can't contain herself. She's kind of laughing to herself. And they did a fantastic job. And there's a really good video on YouTube somewhere called, I think it's the Rhodey Rabernacle Choir. And they did great. And Ann and Nancy's reaction to seeing that was just priceless.
That had to be amazing. Now,
yeah, it was fantastic. And it was literally got to a point quite a few shows later where we couldn't get another choir. And they're like, okay, we already got the Rhodey choir intact. Let's go.
Hey, everybody on stage, get off the bus. Let's go.
It was great, yeah.
Now, how about Jason, you know, having that song sung, Stairway to Heaven? Did he talk about what that was like for him?
Yeah, I didn't have much interaction with him. You know, there's no better interpretation of his dad's drumming than him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, you could, if you go back and look at the Kennedy Center video, you see how emotional he is at the end of that. And, he brought it every night. I mean, you know, the songs that they chose to do for Encore, he was spot on, but I didn't have any real interaction about, you know, what it did to him emotionally, but I can't say anything bad about the guy. He brought it, and he's a phenomenal player.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now there is a picture I found of you with Cheap Trick, Def Leppard, Heart, and Journey. So who were you working for at that time? And whenever you had big shows like that, so like, did you have to mix for everybody, or?
No. I want to say that was probably 2008 or something.
Okay.
No, I was working for Heart at the time. And, yeah, that was a good tour. Cheap Trick, Heart, and Journey. And, I mean, that's where I got to meet the Journey guys the first time there. And got to be friends with all the crew who were... That's one thing about Journey. There's a lot of turnover in this business. But at that time, the crew guys had all been there for many years, and most of them were still there when I got hired on. So, no, I was just mixing for Heart then. And, you know, a lot of these tours have photo day at the end of, you do a big group photo, and that one in particular just allowed everyone on the tour to have a photo with all the artists, and that was pretty cool.
How lucky are you, man? Like, that is just...
Yeah, you're right. I got to pinch myself sometimes.
I mean, it's so crazy. And then you're talking to somebody like me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish that was me. But anyway, it's, you know, it's so, I just think it's so cool. Now, I can only imagine also what it was like working for the Wilson sisters, but the boys. I mean, we have got a large boy audience here. I mean, you moved from Heart and then you went to work with Journey. Now, before we get into your time with Journey, you had a very, very interesting weekend. 2 shows on Saturday. One was in Central Park, and then one was in Jones Beach, where it was pouring rain before you got there. 2 totally different events, but it sounds like you had a good time.
It was a great well, in hindsight, yeah, it was a great time. We had, if you remember, well, I don't know if you know or not, but we did a show in New Jersey at Atlantic City the night before.
Right.
So we were kind of late. It was going to be a bang, bang, bang day. So we actually went from New Jersey to Jones Beach, Long Island, for a 6 a.m. load-in. And we loaded our gear in at 6 a.m., set it up, and did a quick line check. I mean, and I got to hear everything. I got to hear all the drums and the guitars and whatnot. And then quickly jumped into some SUVs, weaved through traffic to get down to Central Park to do the same thing for Central Park. Our gear was out in Long Island, so everything we had in Central Park was all rented in gear, which adds another variable of putting it all together, not only for me, but all the guys on stage. You know, the drum tech's got 2 additional drum kits to put together. The keyboard tech has a duplicate of Jonathan's rig to put together and blah, blah, blah. So it was an interesting putting all that together. And then Central Park went great. We did our 2 songs, and then they rushed us to the SUVs so we could get back out to Jones Beach. And you and I talked previously about my little police escort out of Manhattan, which was really pretty cool. I felt like I was in a movie.
Yeah, tell everybody about that. What there were a total of 14 escorts?
Okay, yeah. So we do our 2 songs, and then like the radios are going crazy. Let's go. We got to go. Let's go. Where's Mo? Where's blah, blah, blah? And we finally get everybody into the vehicles. And then, yeah, we have like 4 NYPD cop cars. We have like 12 NYPD guys on motorbikes. And we had 8 big black SUVs. It was awesome. So, yeah, we're leaving Central Park and headed through Manhattan, and these bikes and cars are just whipping alongside. They're shutting off this road, shutting off that road, and we're blowing through red lights and blah, blah, blah. And it was freaking awesome. And then we finally got out of the city, and they escorted us all the way out to Jones Beach.
Wow.
And, so we get to Jones Beach around 8:30 at night because the band had gone on stage in Central Park at like 6:30 in the afternoon. We still got to get to Jones Beach for our show out there. So we get out there about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and the band's scheduled to go on stage at 10:15. And that was another, Fallen Heroes, Tunnel to Towers.
Right.
A really great event thing. Multi-band. Steve Miller was there. Ann Wilson was actually there with her band. Fogerty was there. There was a lot of artists there that played too. Journey was scheduled to be the last one. We hit the stage at 10:15. We do our 5 songs. We're done by 11 o'clock. In principle, that's how it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, right.
Well, you throw a hurricane in the mix and constant rain, downpours, and festivals always run a little bit late anyway. We didn't get on stage till about 12:30, and we finished about 10 minutes after 1. It was a very, very long day, but we managed to pull it off, and the guys did great. Thank God for the people that stayed there. I mean,
Yeah.
put yourself in that position. Are you going to stay in a rain-soaked, hurricane-flooded outdoor venue for 12, 14 hours?
You know,
It's
it's a lot of ponchos that I saw, and they were pretty dedicated.
They were very dedicated. And, you know, the cause was great.
Yes.
You know, the Tunnel to Towers and the first responders for 9/11, that's what it was all about.
Yes.
Man, you know, when there was a lull in the action, like when they was changing from band to band and stuff, that'd be this spontaneous breakout of USA, USA, and the people were just, they were fantastic. You couldn't, you know, very, very much applause to the people that chose to be there and then to stay there. It was all great.
That is so cool. So did you bump into Anne?
I went to her dressing room, I guess it was about 45 minutes before she was going on, talked to her manager, and he said, if she would really love to see you, please come back after the show. She was doing her la-la-las and makeup and whatnot, and I knew that I was no way I was going to be able to make it back to see her because I would have been busy at the time, but she came out. She was phenomenal. She looked great, sounded as good as ever, and her audio engineer is a good friend of mine, and we talked for a good while. I said, please give her a hug and pass on my love, and he's like, I absolutely will. So, yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't get to see her, but, you know, she knows I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still very good friends, you know. It's funny because even when I was mixing for them, it was more than just an employee. One of my geek things I do when I'm home is garden. And I grow tomatoes and crap. And, yeah.
You grow crap? Well, that's interesting.
You know what I mean. You know, tomatoes and cucumbers and all
basil
the other things.
and
So.
Yeah.
But it was they would get to a point there where I get a message from Ann or Nancy, how's your garden doing? Send me some pictures and stuff. Like they cared about that. You know,
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah.
It was more than just a guy who's working for you. It was a family vibe.
Yeah, and that's what, like, we touched upon that a little while ago, is that, you know, I'm sure you became friends with some of these people because how do you not? You're with them for so long. You're with Journey from what? I don't know, at least some of the guys, 6 o'clock in the morning, you start, and then they got to come in at some point, and then, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning. That's a long day, and you get to really know people when you're with them for that long.
Exactly, yeah. And all right, let's get to the guys. I mean, you're a huge Journey fan like the rest of us, too.
Of course.
And, yeah, to get that gig was pretty monumental for me.
Okay.
And, like I say, I met them in 2008 when I was out mixing for Heart, and right off the bat, I got to be pretty close with Jonathan Kane. We would talk backstage a lot. Just a good guy, and
he is a good guy.
You know, all the rest of the band members were equally as cool. It just took a while to get around to, you know, knowing them and this and that. And then when I got the gig, it was great. We went into rehearsal right off the bat in Fantasy Studios in Northern California, which is where they recorded Escape and countless other monumental records. And to walk into that studio, walk into the control room, and seeing all these platinum CDs on the wall and stuff, that was pretty monumental. And I remember in my control room mixing for rehearsal, we were going through all these songs, and Jonathan would come in and say, let's listen to a little bit of this, and we would listen to it back. And at one point, I just remember him saying, oh, look at the room right there. And he pointed to this little vocal booth off to the side of my thing. And he's like, yeah, that's where Perry stood when he sang Faithfully.
Oh, my, I can't.
And I'm like, okay, well, I got to take a photo of that, right?
Of course.
Yeah, but I mean, it's great. And they're all, you know, they're iconic rock stars, but they're also pretty good people.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, absolutely.
To see them in that aspect away from the instruments and away from the stage and just talk life or whatever is pretty cool. It's pretty cool that I get to do that with these guys.
Yeah. Hello. Hi. Yep.
And then throw all the songs in, God.
I know their catalog is ridiculous. Like, they have to have the best one. Really, they have to have the best one on the planet.
Well, Escape just went diamond, right?
It's crazy.
10 million, I think. So, 10 million. Escape sold 10 million, something like that.
Yeah. It went bananas. Like everybody's been talking about it. But now, Mo, what year did you start with Journey? What was the year?
Okay, so we're in 21 right now, and this is my 8th year. Do the math, Kiki.
Oh, come on. I suck at math. I'm so bad. So what, 2013,
maybe?
All right. So Dean was in the band at that point.
Yes, he was.
Ross.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Arnell.
Neil. Arnell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you got a nice group of guys there. Arnell, though, like, did you go, how does this guy like I say all the time, how does he jump around like that? And when because I'm sure, here it is. You're looking at Journey from the outside, but then now you're in the inside.
Right.
Were you just blown away at his onstage acrobatics, and not even his voice, but just like how he can move and get the crowd going and all of that?
Yeah, he's just a nonstop bundle of energy, and get to the voice later, but he's just, what you see is true. The smile that never goes away, the energy, the wanting to connect with every single person in the crowd, the eye contact, all that stuff. That's him, and his voice is phenomenal. He can sing anything, and take all of that away, he is the sweetest, most humble. I mean, I don't get to see them every night because I'm not backstage every night, but every time I happen to be, run into them backstage or whatever, he goes out of his way to come hug me and thank me, and he's like, "Oh, thank you for helping." I'm like, I'm not helping you, man. You're killing it every night. And that's him, knows. There's no ego. There's no attitude. He's just a really, really good person, humble, sweet, and talent through the roof.
Oh my gosh. Like, I just can't. I cannot. I mean, I don't know. I think he was such a great, you hate to use the word replacement, but I just think, how about addition? We'll say addition.
Well,
he's just a great addition to the band.
His story is amazing.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if you saw the
yes.
Netflix thing or whatever.
Yes.
The kids singing on the street for money, and his story is phenomenal. Yeah.
The story is crazy. Now, when you started, though, Dean was there, and then sadly Dean left. But now having Dean back again, are you just, what was that like for you to see him again in the band?
Okay, well, let's go back to that a little bit. Yeah, Dean was there, and sadly there was some issues that transpired, and
right.
I think the guys thought it was the right thing to do to move on for a bit, right? And
we love Dean. Dean is amazing.
Yeah, we do love Dean, and we were going into a show at the Hollywood Bowl, and they were going to perform with the LA Symphony or something like that, some big symphony at the Hollywood Bowl. And we were in rehearsal before that, and the guys were going through some of the old catalog in their songs, trying to find older songs that would lend themselves really well to orchestration. And so we're going to have this symphony. Let's pull out some of the stuff that lends itself to the orchestration, right?
Yeah.
So they did some amazing old songs in rehearsal, and Arnell wasn't there. His previous engagement or saving his voice, the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Arnell wasn't there, so Dean sang absolutely everything. And Dean's voice is phenomenal.
It's
right?
crazy.
And to this day on my computer, I have Dean singing all these Journey classics in rehearsal. It's just phenomenal.
My God.
Yeah, so and then literally after we get the set list together for this show at the Hollywood Bowl Symphony, and lo and behold, what happens with Dean happens, and we're like 2 days out from this show.
Oh, wow.
So, they brought in Omar Hakim, who's a phenomenal drummer. I play with, I don't know, his credits are through the roof, Madonna and a million other people. And he's a phenomenal drummer. Personal taste, not the right drummer for Journey, but he filled in just great.
Yeah.
And then we went and did a 3-week kind of Canada tour, and he was part of that too and stuff. And then when it was time to get back together, Neil had been doing some recording with Steve Smith on solo project. And well, obviously, look, I've worked with 100 drummers in my career. 99% of them, Steve Smith is their drum god.
People have said it to me so many times. I've heard it so many times.
He's that amazing of a drummer. And so, they got Smith back, and God, what a plus that was. So now you got all the original members except for Steve Perry. You got Ross, Smith, John. I mean, except for the Greg Rowley days. But, you got all the guys, and it was great. And Smith was fantastic. And we got to be very good friends as well. And then what transpired with them transpired after a couple of years. And, they made the change with bass player and drummer, and Narda Walden came in, and I'm not sure what transpired with the whole Randy Jackson thing. I had heard that he had some medical issue that he had to tend to, so that's when Marco Mendoza came in. And Marco was just fantastic as well. He's completely dialed in. Just another, to me, being a great musician is one thing, because there's a lot of great musicians out there. But if you can be a great musician and also be the great person that you want to hang with and talk to and, have respect for, so that's doubly important to me. And Marco and most of these guys are that. There's a handful of guys out there who are phenomenal, and I just refuse to listen to them because I know how much jerks they are.
Really?
Just not right people. I'm not gonna. I could name some names, but
no, you don't have to do that. Yeah, no, it's
my personal opinion, but Marco's one of those guys. And then you talk about Dean. He is beyond one of those guys.
Oh my
He's
gosh,
just the most lovable, high energy, sweetheart of a guy, and monster drummer, crazy vocal.
I know
all of it.
It's crazy. What Dean has, I think. I don't know why he's not pumped up more. If that makes any sense? Because
I don't know if he could be. I don't know if he could be pumped up more, really.
On an energy level, probably not. But I'm saying, he's so good. He's just so good.
Yeah, when he came back in and they called him in for rehearsal, we had a couple, I guess about 4 or 5 days of rehearsal left before we went to do Lollapalooza. And when he showed up in Chicago, which is where we were rehearsing.
Oh, yeah, that's when all the hullabaloo started on the internet.
It was just a love fest, and everybody, hugging and laughing, and oh my God, and he brings that. He brings that camaraderie and the good vibes and all that stuff. And then the guy sits down with a drum kit and watch out, because he's just freaking phenomenal.
And it's funny because I've been watching Narda, watching Dean. And it's like, I would love to know what's in his mind, because he's looking at him really smiling, going, dang, this guy is good. Narda's great, of course, but
that's one of my, Narda's phenomenal too, but that's one of my, I want them to work it out. We're, I guess, 4 or 5 shows into the to the double drummer era of Journey.
Yeah.
And, you have both of these guys that are phenomenal, but you're right. Narda's watching him. He's watching Narda, and I think there's a little bit of both of those guys defaulting to the other guy, as in, are you going to take this lick? Are we going to do it together? Am I going to,
Interesting.
That needs to work itself out to where they both are assertive, and then because there's still quite a few parts in the set where they are dialed in.
Yeah.
And when they're both dialed in and going through the same thing together, it's pretty magical.
And Dean and Marco are buddies, so you can tell they probably cause trouble, is what I'm saying. Like, they're funny.
Yeah, well, they have a history too, right? Dead daisies and
yes,
Journey Through Time and all that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just, gosh, your job. Oh, just saying. Like, I could push a knob. I'm just saying. If you're ever like have a cold or something, let me know.
Yeah, you got it. Oh, you're the first one on call. Kiki. Tonight on audio, Kiki. Yeah.
I when I first worked in radio, we had the sliding attenuators. I had but not that many. Anyway, so getting back to the guys, Lollapalooza. So how long had it been since you had worked? You were out of work a long time too.
I figured it out. We did a show 2 days before Lollapalooza. We did a show at the Aragon Ballroom in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
532 days since our last show.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So,
all right.
Yeah, we had a great tour in 2018 with Def Leppard.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't work that much in 2019. We did a couple of things. A residency in Las Vegas and this and that shows on it, but now we're touring. And we had a great tour scheduled for 2020 with the Pretenders.
Right.
It was like 80 some shows. They were selling really well. It was going to be a great tour. And then COVID started, and they pushed it back, and then they pushed it back again till it was obvious that we just can't keep pushing this back. And like everything else that canceled, canceled. So.
Yeah. Did it feel good to be back to work though, Mo? Like how?
Oh my God, did it? I mean, there's some personal issues that I've been dealing with at home, just being here for so long. Mm-hmm. I won't get into them because they're boring, but yeah, to touch the console and to do what I was meant to do. I'm meant to do this audio thing, right?
Yeah.
And, it had been a long time. I needed to get back to being myself as opposed to just being the guy here, going through the COVID quarantine, lockdown, and all that stuff.
Right.
I had literally mixed one show in that whole time. And believe it or not, here in New Orleans, I got some friends who are really, really great musicians. And miraculously enough, they got a Journey tribute band. So I mixed them. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, how about that? And just to get back to my gear and get back to the guys and get back to like doing that, and because I'm not quite sure if I was retired or not, and
that had to be a crazy feeling for you to not know.
Yeah, to get back to doing it, and then all of a sudden reminding yourself that, hey, you know what? I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
And that was I needed that. I think we all needed that. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We needed it too. And we're glad you're back. Thank you. Now the 2017 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, were you there? Ceremony?
I was.
Oh dear Lord. And did you meet Mr. Perry?
I did not. I was stuck out in front of house, and another stupid little one of my antics here, I'll tell you real quick. About 2 or 3 years before that, Hart was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right.
And I was there for that as well.
Oh, my gosh.
So
How good are you?
tell all these people, hey, you guys are on the fence and getting inducted in the Hall of Fame? Hire me. I'll get you in there. I'm the golden ticket right now. Joke, obviously. Yeah.
No, it's not. Obviously, you're a good luck charm.
Okay, so Hall of Fame induction things. We knew that Perry was going to be there.
Yeah.
We also knew that he was not going to sing.
Okay.
But then the rumor started circulating that day, oh yeah, Perry's going to sing a song. I was pretty sure it wasn't going to happen,
Yeah.
So, and the vibe that I got was, I think the guys were kind of wondering, how's it going to be? You know, is he going to be a jerk and is he going to make things uncomfortable or what? You know, and when they got called, when, you know, they rolled the video and I think it was Monahan from Train did the induction, and when they got called to the stage, I saw Perry goes up to the left side and Nealon comes up from the right side. And when they see each other on stage by the podium, it's just smiles, and then all of a sudden they embrace in this tremendous hug.
Oh my God.
And the place goes crazy and was phenomenal. You know, it was all love. And the guys come up there and they all do the same thing. And then when Perry gave his acceptance speech, to me, he couldn't have been more gracious. He was so thankful for the guys. He thanked the crew and the management and the staff for all the years and stuff. It was phenomenal. Afterwards, I saw the photos of Arnell and him back in the dressing room. I don't know if you've seen those
Yes,
or not, but
I did.
Arnell's been the first one to say that he's as big a fan as anyone, and he loves him so much. And to see those guys hugging and embracing, and for Perry to give a shout out to Arnell in his acceptance speech, thank Arnell for carrying on the music so great and that kind of stuff. That was huge, because you know there's still a lot of people out there.
Oh my God.
Not Perry, not Journey. You know that.
I know.
There's a lot of them out there.
Mo, I see comments and hear them every day. It's like, guys, it's, you know, I was on the Steve Perry's going to go back. I'm off the bus now. I've gotten off. I'm sorry. But you know, I don't appreciate when people say, "Oh, it's not Journey." It is Journey. It is Journey. It's a different looking Journey, but it's still Journey. They can still play the songs, and you know, we've got Neil and Jonathan and Arnell. We've got a great, I don't know. I'm just thankful they're still, like I said, and they're still great.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know, some people just want to find the negative, and there's nothing that we could do to make them happy. So, well,
it's okay, because we're happy that Journey is still around, and now you have something else to look forward to. Starting on December 1st, you guys are going to be doing the Vegas Residency at the Virgin Hotel. Now, with you doing that type of show for 11 days straight, is it going to be easy for you, do you think, or do you still have the same amount of pressure?
Well, you know, we've done it 3 times already.
Mm-hmm.
We did 2 residencies at the Hard Rock, which is where we're going now, is the same room, because the Virgin Casino has bought the Hard Rock building, so it's the same room. I'm familiar with it.
Oh, cool.
And the other one we did was at the arena at Caesars, which is another phenomenal room.
Mm-hmm.
Which you actually have one show there too at the end of December.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I'd say it's a bit easier because crew-wise, you know, we load in once.
Yeah.
And we load out X amount of days later. But you say 11 days in a row, we literally work 3 days a week when we're there. We never work more than 2. It's usually like a Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
Oh, okay.
So, which leaves a lot of time to go play golf and other cool things. Yeah.
Oh, that's good, because it looked like there were several, I don't know, at least 5 shows anyway, I thought. And I'm like, oh, but that's so cool, because you get to stay put. You know, it's not like you're moving around and I got to pack my stuff, and just like this past weekend.
Yeah, no, this is not a touring scenario. So yeah, we'll move in, and they take care of us pretty good over there too. So it's good. I like doing it, and you're in the same room every night. The guys like that, and it's always, you know, well sold out, so the people are excited to see them and hear them, and it's going to be good.
And you're in Vegas. I mean, Vegas is the best.
It's kind of an excitement there. Yeah, you're right.
Now,
back in my younger years when I did some gambling, I would say, man, that's a long time to be in that town. But most of the gambling is now turned into golf and other things. And golf is one of my addictions. So.
Oh, that's not a bad addiction. It's a good, besides gardening too, right?
Yeah, I toured in the 80s, so there was worse addictions that I could have come away with than golf and fishing and gardening. Yeah,
we're glad to have you with us still, Mo.
Thank you, darling.
Now, I did see, before we wrap up, I saw a very sweet picture of you and Steve Augeri, another former lead vocalist for Journey. He's such an awesome guy. What was it like when you met Steve, and what was that scenario?
So before my Journey days, right? I'll tell you a quick story. I was doing Lita Ford.
Oh my God! Did you really?
Yeah, I did Lita Ford for quite a while.
Oh, I love Lita.
And, yeah, we did a show. It was kind of like a big club. I don't remember where it was. Somewhere, maybe Virginia, North Carolina, something like that. I don't know. But the opening band had gone off, and we were doing set change. And we're setting up for Lita to come on stage, and I'm wrapping up some cables and closing up some mic stands and doing all the roadie things, right? And there's this song playing in the house. And the chorus of this song stuck me. Like, I got to find out who that is. Just the chorus of the song, like, that's a great change. It's a great vocal, blah, blah, blah. And I had no idea who it was. And then, like, a couple of weeks later, I had remembered it. And I was asking a friend of mine, a musician, it's like, man, I heard this song, got to figure out who it was. And I was kind of humming the chorus of what I could remember of it. And he's like, oh, here you go. And he hands me the Tall Stories CD.
Oh, my gosh.
The song is called Crawling Back.
Wow.
And that's how I got turned on to them. And to this day, Tall Stories CD is still one of my top 10 all time. And I think that's one of the best songs, best choruses I've ever heard. And then, yeah, Steve went on to do Journey. I never got to meet him during that part because obviously that was before me.
Mm-hmm.
But like my first year with them, maybe, or second year with Journey, we did a show in Madison Square Garden with Journey and Santana.
Oh, nice.
And I don't remember. I think Journey played first that night. I can't remember. Yeah, I think so. I don't remember really. But anyway, after the show, yeah, I think Journey played first and Santana was second. So I'm back in the dressing room area, and, you know, it's New York. It's the Garden. There's all the celebrities and whatnot. And, you know, standing outside the dressing room door is Steve. And when am I going to get this opportunity again, right? I walked up to him and introduced myself and said, man, I got to tell you a quick story. And the story I just told you about Falling Back to the Tall Stories song.
And he must have loved that.
I mean, I had to dig it up, and he just thought that was so cool. And then, you know, he's like, so what do you do? And I said, MO, I do audio. He's like, oh my God. And he was very complimentary. He's like, dude, I need to clone you and bring you on the road, you know, whatever. But, and yeah, he got to, you know, we had maybe just a 15-minute thing, and still a fan, always a fan. And then a couple of years later, he was doing a show with his band here in Mississippi, casino show, and you know, you make a couple phone calls through the management, blah blah blah, and get some tickets, and went over to see him, and he remembered me, and I remembered him, and yeah, we laughed and cut up, and yeah, he's just fantastic. I love the guy to death.
Oh, yeah, he's
a great voice.
He's got
sweet guy too, you know.
Oh my gosh, and yes, both, and ditto. Yes, he is awesome. He is absolutely awesome. We're so blessed to know him. So that is wonderful, and that's a cool story. Now we have one fan question for you from Mark in Baltimore. He wants to know, with a sound check being so critical, have you ever come across an arena or a venue that just gives you a hard time to get dialed into?
Mark in Baltimore, that's about 50% of the time, my man. They don't build these buildings with audio in mind. Think about it. You know, it's a hockey arena or a basketball arena. Yeah, there are reflections everywhere, audio reflections. There's bad glass surfaces, cement floors. You know, every venue has its own flavor. Some are better than others, obviously. But you do what you can. I mean, technology is really caught up in audio. I'll tell you, I've said this many times. I mentioned earlier that I'm a dinosaur living in a digital world, right? Well, the fact that technology is caught up, and I have my big console that I work on, and right to the right of me is the brains of the audio system, the drive rack, which has all the components and computers dialed in to timeline this and shade that and EQ this and move that and blah, blah, blah. And I've said many times, if 38 years into my career, if I can finish my career and not know what the hell is going on in that rack, I'm okay with it, right? It's not my world anymore. It's for a younger guy who's been trained in it and spent the time, and, you know, people far more smarter than myself have spent countless hours in a lab to put it into a two-space rack unit that makes it sound right. So, yeah, we do all the things we can to combat the bad audio situations, and then just hope it works. And
fingers crossed.
The saving grace for all of us, and it's probably crude for me to say it, is you get this big room that's really bouncy and cavernous and reverb and reflections and whatnot, and you do a sound check in there, and the saving grace is getting 10,000 blood bags in there. I call them blood bags, meaning let's get some people in here to soak up the reflections, and that helps. Believe it or not, it helps a lot.
Good thing for people.
So, yeah, good thing for people. Good thing for the fans for showing up. But no, that's part of being an audio guy, figuring it out, making sure that each seat in the house gets the proper audio delivered to them, and to try and make it right. And, not kill the people down front, but the guys in the nosebleed seats also get a fair share of what's supposed to be happening. And if we do our job right, everyone walks away happy.
Yep, absolutely. So, Mo, after all of these years and all of the different types of artists you've worked with, what is the one memory that you always look back on and it just makes you thankful for what you do?
Well, there's a lot of them. I mean, who'd have thought that I'd ever get to go around the world a couple times and see, Europe and Asia and everywhere else, Australia, New Zealand. That's cool. Each artist has their own little thing. Like I said, you read off some of my others, all the hip hop artists I did. When Hart was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I had to get in the elevator and go upstairs and see Ann and Nancy, and I walk in the elevator, and who comes walking in but all the people from Public Enemy. And I hadn't seen them in 15 years, and I was like, oh, hey, and it was like full circle with those guys. It was friendly and hugs and good to see you, blah, blah, blah. And I did a country artist named Dina Carter for a couple of years, and I mean, she's still like my sister. We still talk regular, and she's phenomenal. She had Song of the Year and Album of the Year, her debut record. She's just crazy. Sweetest. The relationships you make, and then the Journey guys. I mean, like I say, that one night when it dawned on me that I get to be the guy with his hands on the faders, when this band that I was a fan of and listened to it's the soundtrack of my life, and I get to do it. There's a lot of them. I can't really give you one, and the fact that these people are my friends, their phone numbers are in my phone. Text messages and emails that have nothing to do with the music, about life. That's really pretty freaking cool.
That is pretty freaking cool. And we thank you so much. I do have to give a special shout out to our friend April for setting this all up. I totally thank her for this, because everyone listening totally appreciates your story. I mean, this was so cool to connect with you and just to get the behind the scenes look into some of the bands that we all love, grew up with, listened to, still listen to, and how you are responsible for making them sound perfect. So we appreciate everything you do, Mo, and we will see you at the very next show.
Thank you, Kiki. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Keep pushing the rock. I know you will, man.